The movie starts with a couple, Dan and Jessica, enjoying their wedding anniversary at a carnival. They're having a wonderful time, laughing and celebrating their special day. However, nearby, a group of thugs takes a photo of them without permission and begins to taunt Dan. He notices and steps in, asking them to delete the photo. The thug refuses, taunting him further and even posting the photo on social media. Jessica tries to convince Dan to let it go, but secretly she wishes he could stand up for himself. Dan, however, chooses to say nothing, feeling humiliated, but deciding not to escalate the situation. Once they return home, Dan lies in bed, replaying the incident in his mind. While he could have defended himself, he doesn't want to risk losing the peaceful life he has with his family. Dan is a successful car salesman in Buffalo, New York, and is the top salesman at his dealership. He is known for being confident, well-liked, and the guy who has it all together. Despite his busy career, Dan loves spending time with his family. On his wedding anniversary, even though his boss asks him to take photos of her work, Dan refuses and rushes home to spend time with Jessica. His kids, Nina, Kyle, and Max, greet him excitedly when he arrives. However, Jessica is in the middle of a disagreement with their daughter, Nina. Nina had planned to attend Stanford University to study journalism, but now she wants to go to Southern Iowa University, where her boyfriend Trevor goes. Jessica doesn't understand why Nina would make such a drastic decision, and the argument leaves tension in the air. To ease the tension, Dan suggests taking Jessica out to celebrate their anniversary, and asks Kyle to babysit Max. But Kyle refuses, saying he has plans with his friend Samir. This causes more arguments, with Kyle accusing Jessica of treating him unfairly. Nina is also upset because she feels like she's being forced to babysit. Dan tries to calm everyone down, but the mood at home is tense. Meanwhile, Kyle, who's a famous online gamer known as Killboy, is in Samir's garage playing video games. Kyle has a huge following due to his impressive gaming skills. Jessica feels frustrated because Dan never seems to plan anything spontaneous, like a family vacation. She wants him to think about the family more and do something out of the ordinary. Dan listens and, after some fun at the carnival, agrees to plan a vacation, which excites Jessica. The tension returns, though, when the thugs from earlier post their photo online. Dan chooses not to confront them, even though he feels humiliated. Back at home, Jessica reassures him that she doesn't want him to confront the bullies. She knows how much he hates violence, but deep down, she wishes he could stand up for himself. The next day, Dan talks to Jessica about how he should have fought back, making her laugh. Even though he feels embarrassed, he decides to let it go. Feeling frustrated, Jessica decides to take up boxing to blow off steam. She talks to Gwen, a woman at the gym, explaining how hard it is being a full-time mom and dealing with the kids' issues. Gwen offers to help her plan a vacation and give Jessica her business card. Meanwhile, Dan is out grocery shopping with Max when a stranger suddenly attacks him. Dan quickly defends himself, taking the thug down skillfully, with everyone around him watching in surprise. He pays for the groceries and heads home as if nothing happened. Once home, Dan opens a secret compartment of his house filled with guns, expired passports, and cash. Panicked, Dan calls his old colleague, Augie, to arrange new identities for his family as he believes they are in danger. Augie informs him that his former boss, McCaffrey, is after him, and the photo posted online could have revealed their location. Dan offers $500,000 for new identities and arranges to meet Augie in Las Vegas in 3 days. Augie is shocked that Dan's family doesn't know about his past as a government assassin. Dan goes to talk to Nina at her school, but she tells him that she quit her job at the magazine months ago and is now spending her time at the stadium. Dan is upset, especially since Nina didn't tell him about the change. Nina explains that she quit because her dad never read her articles. Later, Dan picks up Kyle from Samir's garage, where Kyle is playing video games and scolds him for skipping his group project. After picking up the kids, Dan decides to take Jessica to Las Vegas, as she's been wanting a family vacation. However, things get complicated when they realize a black van is following them. Dan tries to shake it off by speeding up, but doesn't tell his family about the danger. He drives to his work's showroom, where he finds a tracking device under his car. He secretly switches the device onto another car and sends it on a high-speed test, hoping to confuse their pursuers. Later, the family continues their trip to Las Vegas, but the situation becomes even more dangerous. McCaffrey and his men are tracking them, and Dan knows they need to keep moving. They end up spending the night in the car and avoid being found. Soon, 3 motorcyclists working for McCaffrey start chasing their vehicle. Dan cranks up the music to keep the family distracted, but little Max seems to sense everything is under control. When one of McCaffrey's men tries to shoot at Dan, he manages to shoot back and hit the attacker. Dan then knocks out another thug by stuffing Max's baby bottle into his helmet, and finally he rams the car into the last motorcyclist. Jessica wakes up to an explosion, but Dan reassures her that it was just a pothole. They drive all night and Dan eventually stops at the Mountain Fresh Creamery to rest. When Nina wakes up, she realizes they are in Java and insists they stop at Southern Iowa University to meet her boyfriend Trevor. After some argument, Dan agrees to take her. While walking around the campus with Kyle and Max, Kyle admits he misses the old Nina, the one who was close to the family. Nina is touched but still determined to stay with Trevor. As they walk near a laboratory on campus, Dan notices a suspicious man who claims to be a corn seed salesman from Germany. Dan tests him by speaking in German and learns that the man is not one of McCaffrey's men. However, just as things seem calm, one of McCaffrey's henchmen tries to shoot Dan, leading to a fight. Dan takes down the man and tries to protect his family. Meanwhile, Nina stays in the school dormitory and finds Trevor with another girl. Heartbroken, she returns to the family in tears. Dan comforts her, but instead of lecturing her, he teaches her a martial arts move that will cause pain without lasting harm. Nina uses the move on Trevor and feels much better. The family finally heads to Las Vegas. When they arrive, Kyle apologizes for hiding his online gaming career from Dan, and the two bond over gaming. They even challenge each other to a game of laser tag where Dan wins easily. Kyle is down, but Dan cheers him to get up with a hug. Jessica and Dan go to dinner, and before leaving, they remind the kids not to leave the hotel room. During their time at the dinner, a waiter speaks to them in French, and Dan accidentally responds in French. Jessica is surprised to learn that her husband knows multiple languages, something she didn't know before. Meanwhile, Kyle continues playing games at the hotel's online gaming area. Later, McCaffrey's men find Dan and his family in Las Vegas, and in a final confrontation, McCaffrey takes Jessica and the kids hostage. He demands that Dan meet him alone. Dan agrees, and when he arrives at the casino, the family discovers that McCaffrey is Dan's father. They have a tense conversation, and McCaffrey reveals that he wants Dan dead because he abandoned him. But over time, he's become proud of his son for standing up to him. McCaffrey demands that Dan return to work for him, but Dan refuses. With the help of Jessica and the kids, Dan manages to defeat McCaffrey's men and escape. He later confesses to his family that his real name is Sam and that he used to be a government assassin before he ran away from McCaffrey, not wanting to kill for money anymore. After some initial shock and anger, Dan's family forgives him, and they decide to start a new life together. 6 months later, Nina is working as a reporter covering McCaffrey's criminal organization. Dan opens a security consulting firm, and Jessica becomes a sports coach. The family enjoys road trips together with one rule: no phones allowed. They cherish every moment and appreciate the time spent with each other. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to check out the other videos on our channel.